Welcome students to BSL Bite Size Learning. Today we are going to talk about numbers. So we use numbers in everyday life, all form of speech or any calculations and anything we do in every daily life. But we really do we really know what numbers are and what are the types of numbers, right? So in today's topic we will talk about the types of numbers. Okay, so let's start with the simplest one, right? So simplest one is even numbers. Okay, so what are even numbers? Any number that is uh, divisible by 2 or multiples of 2 is a even number, right? So all these numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, those are all multiples of 2, so those are called even numbers, right? Now next come is the odd number. What is an odd number? Is It's a number that starts with 1 and then you keep on adding. It's not a multiple of 2, but you keep on adding 2 to that number, and you go in the sequence, right? So that is an odd number, right? So anything that is a multiple of 2, you call it an even number. Anything that is not multiple of 2 but it starts with 1 and then you keep on adding 2 to that, that's an odd number, right? Now, one number which is a positive, we call it as a positive, but is not in this list, is 0, right? Now, you have even number, you have odd number and 0. If you together see all these numbers, these all are called whole numbers. All right. So you have all the numbers that starts with 0 and go on in sequence 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on are called whole numbers, right? These are called natural numbers also, but I'm not talking about that. So you have even number, odd number, whole numbers, right? Now these whole numbers, and there are similar to this, there can be negative numbers. All right, so these negative numbers are called integers, negative integers, right? So there is no minus 0. It starts with -1, -2, -3, -4 and so on, right? So these are all negative integers. So when you have a set of whole numbers and negative integers, this is together called integers. All right, so what is an integer? Integer will have whole numbers, that is 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on, plus negative integer -1, -2, -3 and so on, right? So these are all integers, right? Now when you have integers and fractions, so next type of numbers are fractions. Fractions. So what is a fraction? We have learned about fractions. So fraction has two integers divided by sign. So let's say 1 by 2, 3 by 7, right? 3 divided by 7. So you have an integer at the numerator, an integer at the denominator, that is called fraction. So fraction has three types. So we will discuss about types of fractions in the next lecture. But you have fractions. So fractions or mixed fraction, right? So 2 is to 1 upon 2, something like that, right? We will discuss about all that type. So when you have integers and fractions, right, and then this is together called a rational number. So rational number is any number that can be represented as a fraction or an integer, right? So that is a rational number. So now we know that, okay, it starts with even, odd, and then that including 0, the set is called whole numbers. Then when you add the negative integers to that, the set is integers. When you add fractions to that integers, it becomes rational number. So all that set, including the fractions, whole numbers, negative integers and integers, like all those are called rational numbers. Now we'll move on to the next. So there are a few numbers which cannot be represented as a fractions, right? Those are called irrational number. So what are those numbers? Let's say an example is square root of 2. We'll talk about what is a square root, what is a square pi and all. So these numbers, pi is a constant, right? Its value is 3.14, something like that. Okay, we'll talk about it. So these are all rational numbers. So when you have there is a set which is rational number, there is a set which is rational number. If you add, so this is irrational, this is rational, right? So if you add this set, these numbers are called real numbers. So a real number is any number that can be represented as in a number line, right? That consists of rational numbers, irrational numbers, right? And then the rational numbers can be fractions, whole numbers. Whole numbers are including the negative numbers are called integers, right? So you have, let's say you have a number line, so you represent a number line like this, that has a 0 in the middle, and all the positive numbers are on the right side of it, so 1 2 3 4 and so on, and all the negative numbers on the left side of it, and any rational or irrational number that can be represented here, let's say 3.14 will come here, right? And then in the negative number also you will have minus 0.5, something like that, which will come here, something like that, right? So any number that can be represented on a number line, whether it is a positive or a negative number, is called a real number. Now we know the definition of all kind of numbers. There are two specific type also which we want to discuss, are the prime numbers. All right. So a prime number is a number that is divisible by 1 and itself. So it has only two factors. So two factor is 1 and itself. So 1 is one prime number, 2 is the only even number that is a prime number, because 2 is divisible by 1 and itself, right? Then the third number is 3, which is divisible by 1 and itself. So let's take an example of 3. So if you want to divide 3, you take 1 times 3 is 3, 0, and then you want to divide 3 by 3, 3 times 1 is 3, and the remainder is 0. So it is completely divisible by only two numbers, 1 and 3. That's why we call it a prime number. Similarly 5, then 7. After 7, 8 is not a prime number, 9 is not a prime number, 10 is not a prime number, next number is 11, because 11 is divisible by 1 and itself, right? And the last type that we want to discuss in this type of numbers is composite numbers. So composite numbers. Composite numbers are the type of number that has factors more than 2, meaning a number is divisible by 1 itself and one more number. So let's say we take an example of 4, right? So 4 is a composite number. How? If you want to divide 4 by 1, 1 times 4 is 4, remainder is 0. If you want to divide 4 by 2, 2 times 2 is 4, remainder is 0. If you want to divide 4 by 4, 4 times 1 is 4, the remainder is 0. So 4 is divisible by 3 numbers, 1, 2 and 4 completely. So if it is completely divisible by more than 2 numbers, 1 and itself, those kind of numbers are called composite numbers. So after 4, 5 is not a composite number, but 6. 6 is a composite number because 6 is completely divisible by 1, 2, 3 and 6 itself. So 6 is a composite number. This is all type of numbers. Let's say we want to represent this in a graph, right? So how do you actually represent all these numbers in graph? So we'll start with prime number at the bottom, composite number at the bottom, right? So prime number and a composite number can be either even or odd, right? So a prime number can be either a prime number and composite number can be either even or odd. Then now these even and odd number plus 0 are called whole numbers, right? Now when you have whole number and negative numbers, -1, -2, right? So those are all negative integers, right? So when you have this negative integer and whole number, these are together called integers, all right? Now when you have integer and fractions, so fractions 1 by 2, 3 by 4, right? So these fractions and integers are together called rational numbers, right? And then there are irrational number, which are square root of 2, square root of 3, something like that. So you call these irrational number, and then these rational and irrational number are together called real numbers. Hope you liked it and understood the concept. Thank you.